The Easter story. Sometimes it's difficult when it's Easter and we think about Easter eggs, lots of chocolate, Easter bunny perhaps, all the fun things to do with Easter. And there are reasons why we do that. And this story is about why Christians celebrate Easter. I'm going to read, first of all, the Good Friday story and then the Easter Sunday one, which is my favourite. Okay. When Pilate ordered his soldiers to take Jesus away to be crucified, they dressed him like a king, with a royal purple robe and a pretend crown made of twisted thorn branches. "Let's all worship the King of the Jews," they mocked, before beating him. They wanted Jesus to carry a heavy wooden cross to Golgotha, where he was to be executed. But as he was injured, they forced a passerby to take it instead. They hammered long nails through his outstretched hands and feet and lifted Jesus upright on the cross before sharing out his clothes between them by casting lots. "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing," said Jesus. "Forgive me too," cried out one of the two robbers being crucified on either side of him, though the others simply hurled insults. Several women followers stood watching nearby, including Mary, his mother. Their hearts were filled with grief at the pain Jesus was suffering. But others didn't care. "If he really is God's son, then why doesn't God rescue him?" jeered some religious leaders in the crowd. Jesus was thirsty, so a sponge soaked in wine vinegar was lifted to his lips. At midday, an unusual darkness fell across the sky, until 3 hours later, Jesus cried out, "My work is finished. I give my spirit to you, Father." And he breathed his last breath and died. At that very moment, an earthquake shook the ground, and the temple curtain tore from top to bottom, showing that the barrier between God and people had now been removed. As evening came on, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a rich man and a member of the Jewish religious council, and who had become a follower of Jesus, went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Pilate allowed him to have it, and after Joseph had taken down the body, he wrapped it in linen and put Jesus' body into a tomb, one that had never been used and that he had had cut out of the rock for himself. Then a big stone was rolled in front of the tomb's entrance. Very early, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene, Mary James's mother, and Salome made their way through the still, early morning gloom to the tomb where Jesus' body lay. "Who will roll back the stone so that we can anoint Jesus' body with oil?" they asked, as they stepped silently through the empty streets carrying bundles of spices for the purpose. As they approached the tomb, however, there was a violent earthquake. The ground shook and cracked apart. Afraid, the women were appalled to see that the heavy stone had been pushed to one side. Nervously, they crouched down and crept inside, only to discover that the body was missing. Terror gripped them, even more so when they saw a young man sitting on the right side of the tomb, near where the corpse should have been. He was dressed in clothes as white as snow, and his body shone like lightning. The women bowed down with their faces to the ground. "Don't be frightened," he reassured them. "I know that you're looking for Jesus from Nazareth. Why do you look for the living among the dead? He's not here. He's alive. He's risen from the dead just as he said he would. Look, this is the exact spot where his body was laid. He's going on ahead of you to Galilee, where he had arranged to meet you. If you go there, you'll see him as he promised. But first, go and tell Peter and the disciples what has happened, that he's risen from the dead." The women left the tomb dazed and shocked, yet at the same time filled with joy at everything they'd seen and heard. They stumbled back to the disciples and, scarcely believing what they were saying, related everything that had happened that morning. Most of the men thought they were mad, but Peter and one of the disciples sprinted to the tomb. The other one was faster than Peter and so reached it first, but was too afraid to go in. When Peter finally appeared, he went straight inside and saw the eerie scene. Strips of linen lying there along with the burial cloth, neatly folded by itself. Finally, his friend plucked up enough courage to go in, And the two of them stared in wonder and surprise. What the women had said was true. Jesus was no longer there. He really was alive. And then Jesus went on and showed himself to Mary and to the disciples at different points so that they all knew that Jesus had risen from the dead. What an amazing story. And that is our Easter story. And it is important for all Christians. It's one of the most important events of the Christian calendar, along with Christmas. So I hope you all have a really, really lovely, happy Easter, whatever you're doing. Eating lots of chocolate eggs, I would imagine. Mrs. Darman's going to have to be very careful. I love my cream eggs. Okay, bye everyone.